How we doing, class? Welcome back. Let's knock both these videos out in one day. Here we are. We are in Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is compensation and incentives, and Chapter 11 finishes our second segment here where we're walking through the implementation of a sales program. We started off with Chapter 6, salesperson performance. Chapter 7 was also salesperson performance. 8, we did personal characteristics and aptitude. 9 was recruitment and selection. 10, training, sales training. And finally, we're talking about compensation and incentives. The last 2 chapters in the book are evaluation and control, the after monitoring, evaluation and control. Okay? Some good stuff's here in Chapter 11. I really like these 2 slides that we start off with. You know, how do you get a good compensation plan? This is a very nice little checklist here. 16 items. Number 1, though, is number 1. Calibrating the plan with the firm's overall profit objectives. There are too many disconnects in the compensation plan and the overall mission of the firm. For example, if you want to be new school, yet you have too many incentives on closing deals, then the incentive plan doesn't match with what the strategic mission would be. If you want to be new school and you have 100% commission, it's just not going to work. You know, I really like, let me get rid of these here. This is a very nice, simple list. This is something that, you print a copy of this out, you put it into your iPhone. It's a good checklist. Okay? Some other quick highlights from Chapter 11. Make sure that we're perfectly clear with the various terms and definitions. What is salary? What is incentive? Quota, context, benefits, non-financial. I want to get back to this because I don't think the chapter is defining this very well. Now, there are very few straight salary commission plans, compensation plans out there in sales. There are plenty in non-sales positions, but there are very, very few in sales. There are times where straight salary occurs when you have a new salesperson, and maybe for the first 9, 12, or 18 months of their career, they get a straight salary to give them some security, Okay? Straight commission, unfortunately, is very common and very popular, and there are still way too many firms out there that are old school. I would really peg this at 50%. If you want to look at all possible sales jobs out there, I would put this a pretty high number. 40, 50, I don't know about 60, but it definitely a third, probably 40, and probably 50% of all sales jobs out there. I mean, this is your red flag. When you're going on an interview with a sales job, this is red flag number 1, is the compensation plan. Because if they have this kind of a compensation plan, they are not new school. Combination of base salary plus incentive pay. This is a new school compensation method. And it's just a combination of how much is base and how much is incentive. If 30% is base and 70% is incentive, well, that's less old school, less new school and more old school. But if it's 60 base plus 40 incentive, okay. That's very new school. Very new school. Hold on. There are advantages and disadvantages to each. I think the book does a pretty good job here. Combination plans are very common out there. Very common. The question is just what's the percentage breakdown? What is the breakdown between base and incentive pay? This is actually a big deal. When is a sale a sale? Because a lot of firms may credit someone for a sale, but if the client takes and then in a 1 month time period they get their commission, okay, yet it takes the client 90 days to pay, or if they don't pay at all, then those commissions have to be retroactively come out of a future paycheck. So this is a sticky point. You know, salespeople should probably only earn the commission when the client pays, not when the sale is earned. Obviously, the salesperson want their commission when the sale is credited, not when the client actually pays. But then there's all these other issues, and this is a very, very huge sticky point with a lot of salespeople. This right here, team versus individual incentives, this is not well developed in the literature. I think the book does lip service here, and there's not a whole lot of thinking out there. I mean, usually what happens is if you think of it as in like a weighted equation, there is a team score as part of your overall compensation. Could be 10 or 15% of your bonus could be the team score. And that's really all that they're doing right now. There's not been a lot of rich research here in this area. And someone who wants a PhD in sales really should be looking into this. All right, we already talked about this a little bit. Contests. I'm not a big fan of contests. Not only are contests more old school, but contests tend to promote old school behavior. It's a short window. Salespeople get very aggressive with their clients. They get very aggressive with other salespeople because they want to win. Most sales contests are not all that well designed, meaning there's usually only one winner and maybe a token runner-up. You know, I almost see them as having more negative impact than positive impact. Hopefully the contest is well designed. It has a good objective. There's a good probability of winning. There's a variety of types of rewards. There's follow-up and follow-through. That the contest isn't done for the sake of doing a contest. That the contest actually aligns with something that the company wanted done. It's not just some random thing because sales are weak this quarter. The downside to contests is study after study show that they don't last. As a matter of fact, that we tend to see a lag after the contest is over. Almost to the point where the salespeople don't do the slow and steady. They burn through something and need a break, and then all of a sudden, 2-3 weeks after the contest, you know, sales drop considerably. Or they try to pack all their sales into the contest window, and there's nothing to sell after the contest window ends. And then salespeople might do unethical things. You know, they may try to see if they can bring some more sales in from previous quarters to make their numbers from the contest quarter look better. Really, if you have new school, if you have a good environment, the only time I really see sales contests being something interesting or valuable in the new school world is when you have a new product. When you have something that's never been out before, you want to give it a little special flavor, and you do some kind of a contest on that. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about before I get into the questions are non-financial rewards. Non-financial rewards should be non-financial. The way the book is defining them, though, is slightly different. Like recognition with peers and superior is a non-financial reward. Very good recognition programs, very good. Non-financial rewards, including perks, which may include higher compensation, sounds like finance. An automobile, sounds like finance. Better office facilities, that's probably a non-financial reward. Getting a nicer office or something along those lines. But getting a car may not be a salary reward, but it's certainly a financial reward. Higher compensation is certainly a financial reward. Getting a better expense budget is certainly a financial reward. You know, it's not a direct financial, meaning it's not part of your salary, but it's certainly an awfully nice perk getting tickets to games or a gas card or an automobile or keeping your air frequent flyer miles. I mean, there is definitely a financial tie to them. Maybe what they should call them is salary and non-salary rewards, and then non-financial rewards. But the book doesn't define them that way. I think that's all I really wanted to hit here. Let's go into your questions. Chapter 11, Compensation. How long does the average salesperson stay at a company? It's about 5 years, give or take a year or two. Some salespeople go 7 to 11, but 5 is probably, if you look at a bell-shaped curve. Usually, if you think about it, selling is hard. It is a 50 or 60 hour a week job. You get to do it, flex hours kind of, you get some flexibility there, but it is very hard. And you're married and you have kids, you may not be wanting to travel that much. And usually what happens is a salesperson young in their career does it for 5, 7, maybe 10 or 11 years, and then they move up within the company. Is there enough long-term incentives to benefit the company or the salesperson? A lot of other sales companies don't have enough positions to move someone up to. I mean, if a company only has 11 sales positions and the regional salesperson doesn't get promoted, and there's no way for someone who's currently doing really well for them to go up to, they get stuck, they get blocked, so then they leave. In my experience, sales contests create competition while unmotivating new employees and discourage collaboration. They very much could. How do team sales contests versus individual selling contests? I'm going to be direct here, and I really don't have any team versus individual sales contest data. I really don't. The book does talk a little bit more about team compensation versus individual compensation, but team contests versus individual contests, I don't know. The important thing is whether it's an individual or team. I think some of my other comments still apply. It still better be framed and align with mission and goals, and still be more new school if you're a new school firm. Last thing you want to do is, with an individual or a team, take a step back. Increasing the use of sales or cross-functional teams to win a new customer and service major accounts raise some important questions about the kinds of incentives to include in a compensation plan. If you're a manager, how would you develop a compensation plan that motivates members of a selling team? How would you ensure that the plan is fair for everyone involved? The plan will be separate equally or based on performance for each member, and how to evaluate the performance. Look, you guys are not that far away from this conceptually. You are a student, you are in classes, you have individual grades, and then you have some of your grade that comes from being part of a team. You hopefully have a way to evaluate each team member that goes into that grade as a team, or some of your individual grade. But the better compensation plans out there that involve team have a team element, but it's just one of the elements on the entire equation for compensation. If your entire salary is team-based, that's odd. How could you go into a class and your entire grade for the entire semester be based upon your team grade? It's kind of nuts. I can't think of an example, both in the literature or in practice, that that's actually the case. It's a component of your overall compensation. It's not the entire thing. Hopefully, though, the individual tasks for each member of the team are well defined. And if they are well defined, then it's easy for a manager to see if the person did their job well within a team. Let me pause for 1 second. All right, here we go again. How can firms, I'm sure that's firms ensure that they are not underpaying or overpaying for their sales force to ensure job satisfaction and lower employee turnover? Well, for the firms that the salespeople are 100% of the revenue stream, you may not be overpaying. if you lose one of these salespeople, including their expensive compensation plan and non-financial benefits, non-financial rewards, and then it takes you 3 months to hire and train a new salesperson, that's 3 months of revenue lost that you're not going to get back. How costly, where's your trade-off analysis there? The good firms not only have all the salespeople in the field, they also have 2 or 3 training and waiting. Maybe they're doing an inside sales job right now where they're on the phone, but they've been trained in case they have to let someone go, in case there is some discussion about someone being overpaid and they are overpaid, that you have someone in the minor leagues that you can easily move up within a week or 2. If you don't have a succession plan in place, then you probably can't overpay. Whatever they want, they probably earn and get. That's the bigger issue. In selecting salespeople, wouldn't it be in the firm's best interest to recruit new hires rather than experienced hires, as they need both training anyway? And the new hire would be paid less, saving the company more money, and experienced hire would still need training, as there are different sets of skills depending on the area of sales. I can relate this back to the earlier question. It's not paying someone's not the problem. You don't mind paying the baseball player $25 million a year if he hits 45 home runs, drives 130 RBIs in, and bats .330. You would gladly pay him $25 million because he or she is worth all the money in the world. However, it's really, if the production's not there, that's when you don't pay them. New recruits, perhaps they do get paid a little bit less out of the gate, but it's more about having the succession plan. Whether they're a new recruit or whether an experienced recruit, some firms only want to hire a new one because they want to bring them into the culture, but you need that succession plan going through. If you don't have a plan to move people up quickly in case someone leaves or has to leave, then that's the bigger problem. Do you see this as a disadvantage over recruitment of top-level sales managers conducted by smaller sales forces? Well, a smaller sales force usually has to overpay. They have to recruit experienced. A smaller sales force, particularly one that's fully B2B, that 100% of the revenue is coming in from the salespeople, they have to be overpaid. There's too much of a risk to the firm if you don't get a top-level salesperson, top-level sales managers. You have to. They need to be MVPs because there's only 3 people. And they need to go out and sell, otherwise the company has no revenue. How could someone with almost no experience, fresh out of college, convince a hiring manager that he or she is worth the investment while competing with salespeople who've been working for the field and have proven to be successful? This is really tough. You better be able to convince them that you have another skill set that is very valuable. I don't know, maybe it's social or digital, maybe it's IT related, that can help once you get trained a little bit. You have something else. But experience really trumps everything. It really does. This is very challenging. Recognizing good performance is important, but how do you keep your sales force motivated to participate in sales contests if it is that one person who always seems to win? Well, you don't. If you have no shot at winning, you probably loaf it, and since it's during a time period when there's a contest, you may specifically try to loaf a little bit to push potential sales to a quarter after the contest where they're more meaningful to your bottom line. Again, I'm not a big fan of contests. Sales contests may raise questions like vicious competition. They do, even though all the contests have all the successful traits. Do you think this is a problem mainly raised by the personality of the salesperson? It could be that a salesperson, we have friends who get way too competitive when you play games. I mean, it's just ridiculous how competitive they get. The bigger problem is if the contest goes against culture of the firm. It introduces a bad set of behaviors that don't align well with your firm's culture. That's the bigger problem. Are team or individual incentives more successful? Does it depend on the company? We are seeing more data on team incentives. Okay? Individual incentives are easier to manage, monitor, and pay out. I don't know if we want to call them more successful. We are seeing more and more team as a part of the overall, but I don't see team incentive being your whole incentive. I just talked to this. You know, just like your grade can't be for the entire year, can't be a team grade. How often do most companies change a compensation plan? Rarely. Rarely. Because you have salespeople who are very comfortable. And if they're very comfortable and they know how they're going to get paid, then they like status quo. Maybe they'll tweak something in favor that would benefit them, but they're not going to just bow to a brand new compensation plan that wipes out 30% of their salary. You know, and if you get so much pushback from your salespeople, and if you have 15 people in the sales force, and 6 of them leave because they don't like the new compensation plan, you have a much bigger problem. You lost more than a third of your salespeople, 40% of your salespeople. What's that going to do to your revenue? You want to lose 40% of your revenue for the year? I don't know if companies have found a perfect recipe, but I know for a fact that companies do not mess with it very much. They tinker and tweak on an ongoing basis because a monster change in a compensation plan radically changes the potential for you to keep your salespeople. Because some salespeople might have been hired for a particular culture and plan, and if that plan culture changes, they don't want to stay. Okay, chapter 11. We're good. Thanks.